Hello, everyone. I'm Mr. Kissinger, and this is fifth grade math, module 3 review, lesson 1. Today, we're going to be learning how to add fractions using models. We're going to review first some steps that we can use to order fractions from least to greatest. So the first thing that we want to do when we are ordering fractions from least to greatest is find a common denominator or a like denominator. And we want to find a common denominator first because when we're comparing fractions, it makes it easier. Then we can just look to the numerator and we can compare our numerators. Our next step is going to be rename the fractions. So once we've found a common denominator, we need to rename the fractions with that common denominator. And finally, we can order the fractions from least to greatest. We'll use our numerators to order those fractions. And the reason that we're reviewing this before a lesson on adding fractions is because these are similar steps that we're going to use when we add fractions. So first we're going to find it says LCD, that's the lowest common denominator. So we're going to look for the common denominator between the two fractions that is the lowest, the least. And then we need to rename the fractions, add the numerators, leave the denominator the same, and then reduce. So we'll go through all those steps in each one of these. We're going to use models today to help solve these adding fractions problems. And if you look at number 1 here, it says we need to do 1/4 plus 1/4. So these fractions already have the same denominator, so this should make things a little bit easier for us. So I'll shade in 1 here. I'm going to shade 1 here. So I have 1/4 plus 1/4. When we add 1/4 plus 1/4, we'll end up with 2/4, which will look like this. I'm going to draw this first one. I'm not going to draw every single one of them, but I'm going to draw this first one for 2/4 because that way we can see that 2/4 is really 1/2. So when it says reduce here at the end, we want to simplify that fraction. And we're going to simplify it to 1/2. So we're going to find the lowest denominator that we can. We can divide this by 2 and divide this by 2. And we'll end up with 1/2, which is 1/2 as our solution. All right, let's look at the next one because this one does not have common denominators yet. So we have 1/2. I'm going to shade in one of these, 1/2 plus 1/4. Now I can't just add these together like I did up here. I can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to add 1/2 plus 1/4 and get 2/2 or 2/4 because I need to have the same denominator before I can add those numerators. So the way that I'm going to find my next or my common denominator here is I could multiply these together, but because I'm using models, I can also see that I could just make my halves into fourths. So that's what's nice about having a visual representation of it, is I can see now that my half is really 2/4. We saw that right here in our previous problem, that a half is 2/4. And if I have 2/4 plus 1/4, well, now I have common denominators and I can add. So I have 2/4 plus 1/4, and that will give me 3/4. And I can't simplify that anymore. That's going to be my solution, 3/4. I should be able to do that with my next one as well. I have fourths and I have eighths. I see that every eighth is 2/4, so I'll end up splitting my fourths in half. But first, I'm going to I'm going to shade in my 1/4 and my 1/8. I have 1/4 plus 1/8. Well, I can also look at that 1/4 as 2/8, because if I split all my fourths in half, now I have 8/8 there altogether. I have 2 of them shaded in. I have 2/8 plus 1/8. And that will give me 3/8. Now let's look at problem number 4. It says 1/2 plus 1/8. So I'll draw my two models here. I'm going to have 1/2 here. So I need to put 1 and 2. And then I have 1/8 here. All right, so I have 8 parts there. I'm going to shade one of them in. I'm looking at my half and I say, how many eighths is that? Well, I can take my 2 and I can multiply my 2 by something to get 8. So I'm looking at 2 times what equals 8 to find out what I'm going to multiply both my numerator and my denominator by. And I can use a fact tree to figure that out. I can skip count by 2's here. 2, 4, 6. Oh, and there's 8. And so I will look and I see that that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 times 4 is 8. So I'll multiply both my numerator and my denominator by 4, and I'll end up with 4/8. So I want this 1/2 to equal is going to be the same as 4/8. I want to make it look like 4/8, so I need to split my halves in half. Now I have fourths. Split my fourths in half again, and now I have eighths. And I can see that I end up with 4/8 in my model shaded in, plus 1/8. And that's going to give me 5/8 altogether. 4/8 plus 1/8 equals 5/8. All right. So next we have 2/3 plus 1/6. So we have a numerator that's greater than 1. So I have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 parts, and I have 1, 2, 3 parts over here. I have 2/3 shaded on this side, and I'm going to shade 1/6 on my right side. So my 2/3, I need to make those into sixths. I know 3 times 2 is 6, so I need to make every one of these thirds into 2 sixths. And now I see that 2/3 is the same as 4 sixths. And this is 1/6. So I'll have 4 sixths plus 1/6 equals 5 sixths. I'm going to skip number 6 and move right on to number 7. Number 7 says 3/8 plus 1/4 equals, and I'm going to draw my models here. I have 8s here. And I have 4ths here. And I need to shade 3 of my 8ths. And I have 1 of my 4ths. And I'm going to make everything into 8ths, because I know I can make my 4ths into 8ths by multiplying by 2. So I'm going to have 2 8ths. So I have 3/8 plus 2/8. And 3 plus 2 is 5, so it's going to I'm going to end up with 5/8. All right, and then number 8 says, write an equation to describe the model below. It says 2/3 plus 1/6. Well, I know that each one of these thirds is 2 sixths. So I have 2 sixths plus 2 sixths plus 1/6. Then I just add my top numbers. I have 2 plus 2 plus 1 is 5, and that's going to give me 5/6. So I'll make these about the same size as this sixth here. And that will be, I could label my 1/6 in here. We know these are all going to be 1/6. And then our answer is 5/6. All right, so that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and look forward to seeing you next time.